Hello everybody, welcome along to this Light and Land live stream. Hopefully you can see me out there. I can see a number of you are in the stream with a few comments there. So I'm just going to make a little note welcoming everyone along. I can see Ken is with us from the Isle of Sheppey again, good man. Dave from a wet and muggy Reading. It is a little bit on the muggy end of things, isn't it? I've just been driving back from Berkshire and it was a little bit of a hot one. Wet and miserable Yorks from David. Kevin is in a dry Surrey. Barbara in North Bucks. So thank you very much for joining me, everybody. If you do jump on board, just let us know in the comments where you're viewing from. I'm obviously down in Dorset as ever, but it's been a busy couple of days and I'd like to personally thank Fuji for dropping a very last minute new product out today, which has just made the news, and I will get to that in a moment. So hi to everyone coming on board, thank you for saying hello. Just a reminder, this is our news show, so I go through the latest and greatest arrivals in the camera world, photography gear, plus exhibitions, books, my book of the month. We've also got news about the next 2 live streams because we're having an extra special one added in next week, and I'll tell you all about that. So we're going to have one next Monday and then the Tuesday after that. So stick with me to find out what that is all about. And also, I'm going to finish tonight with a video that I recorded with myself and Charlie Waite discussing an image, and we've recorded a number of these, and we're going to now have that as a little regular feature at the end of these news shows, is a little image breakdown with myself and Charlie discussing an image from one of the Light and Land leaders' back catalogue, so to speak. And Dave, you are correct about the GFX from Fuji. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Last minute announcement, so to speak. But as ever, I'll aim at around half an hour-ish, but I've got quite a lot to cram in today, and that hasn't been helped by the announcement from Fuji. So let's just jump straight to that. Our first bit of news tonight is, boom, Fuji have just released today the GFX 100 Roman numeral 2, which is very exciting and also very expensive. We'll come to that in a second. A little backstory. This week I knew Monday, Tuesday I was going to be sort of 12 to 14 hours of work stuff. I knew I was not going to get near preparation for this. So I got everything ready on Sunday. I had all my news stuff. I had all the banners done, all the pictures. And then sort of late afternoon today I opened my phone and Fuji have released a camera, a load of lenses, and a million other people have released things. And I'm like, no, what are you doing to me, people? Not today. Anyway, let's get into this Fuji GFX 100 Mark II. Now, this is a 102 megapixel camera, medium format. Wowzers. Now I use a Fuji GFX 50R, which is a 50 megapixel medium format camera, and I'm not sure I've ever needed more than 50 megapixels, to be perfectly frank, and some of that work has been commercially used up to huge sizes, but more the merrier, maybe? I'm not sure. And we're maybe at the point where we sort of start having to harvest our organs if we want to buy some of these things. But let me just spit out what this Fuji GFX can do. And then we're going to touch on the lenses that they've released as well, which might be of interest to you if you're already a Fuji GF shooter of some sort. So as I mentioned, 102 megapixels. That is a brand new sensor development that Fuji are using. AI, artificial derived subject autofocus. So what does that mean? It means that AI is now teaching these cameras how to spot people, cars, animals, and Fuji have had that on their XH series, I believe, and they've now rolled that into this GFX. Also, very interestingly, in a lot of the promotional material that I saw today, as I briefly panicked about this, they showed a lot of videographers holding this camera, or actors holding it, if nothing else. And this is the first medium format camera which can do serious video, I would suggest. The Hasselblad can't, and this certainly can. This can shoot up to 8K video. 4K at 60 frames per second. So if you're like me and you happen to be someone who does a variety of different shooting, be that photography and video from a commercial point of view, isn't just out in the landscape or whatever it is, studio work, whatever it might be, then this is now a serious bit of kit which you could consider. However, I did just mention the cost, £7,000 without any lenses, £7,000. So I've got to say, either this has got to be earning your living for you, or photography has to be your premium hobby, which you enjoy and you just want to spend whatever money you have on it. That's cool. Book a workshop with Light and Land. That's the best way to spend £7,000. You could book a few, but you can also buy the latest and greatest, and this will be a monster. I love my GFX 50R, and I'm sure this will be an amazing camera to use. Interestingly though, they have also brought out 3 lenses in the GF range. So Fuji used the GF range to differentiate their medium format offerings. I was quite excited there might be some new lenses. These aren't what I was thinking they might be, and they weren't what I was looking for, but I can see some uses in these. They've put out 3 lenses. Let's just very quickly touch on those, and then we'll fly through the gear, and then we're going to talk about some upcoming live streams, some upcoming Light and Land offers, and we're going to talk about a couple of images, and we're going to talk to Charlie, my book of the month. God, my goodness, it's busy. I better shut up and get on with it. So these lenses from Fuji are 30mm. Interestingly though, it has a tilt shift functionality, which means you can play with the focal plane. We may do another chat one day about what that means and how to deploy it successfully. But architecturally, that would be very useful to have that tilt shift capability, and for focusing, avoid focus stacking, should we say, and also to correct ups and downs, lefts and rights, as it were. They've released this 55mm 1.7R. Now remember, this is medium format 55mm. So what's that in full frame? 30 something-ish mil, 1.7. Doesn't look too big, that looks nice. A GF 110 macro lens with the addition of the tilt shift. Now that could be very useful for some macro work where you want to have the far and near parts of the frame or the subject in focus. The tilt shift allows you to do that. And also they've released this new vertical grip for the GFX 100 too. Short and tall of it is some very expensive gear. I was hoping that Fuji were going to build on their more affordable prime lens offerings that they have done for the GFX, to put a couple of different focal lengths in there. That is not what they've done. They've gone for very specialist line lenses here. However, combine these with that new GFX 100, you may be up to about 10 grand. And I would add, you may have to buy a new computer to process those 100 megapixel files. And as a final thought on Fuji, if you use their, I think it's the pixel shift or pixel mapping tool, you can actually shoot 400 megapixels out of those bodies. Why? I don't know. Who knows? There's probably a good reason. I just have never come into contact with that reason in 15 years of doing it professionally, but I'm sure there is a good reason to have 400 megapixels. Anyway, let's jump on. Let's go a little bit more affordable. Polaroid. This is a bit of a leap, isn't it, here? We're going to the Polaroid. They have released quite a cool new camera. This is an instant camera, like obviously everything would be from Polaroid. Interestingly though, it has aperture control, it has shutter speed control, it has all sorts of manual controls which have never been present on any sort of instant camera before, and indeed any sort of Polaroid before. So essentially you can shoot it like a manual DSLR or a mirrorless or whatever it might be, but you're shooting film, and you're shooting these Polaroid I-type films, they're called, that are pre-made, like the classic Polaroids, right? They're square framed anyway. Those are about £2 a picture. So when you shoot one of these and it spits out the nice looking Polaroid thing, that has cost you £2. So that adds up, doesn't it? Imagine if it cost you £2 every time you shot a digital image. That would feel ouchy, wouldn't it? You certainly wouldn't be doing any spraying and praying. That would be very expensive. They have released Polaroid, some cool images on their website of artists and endorsers who've been using this camera, but obviously it's a very niche bit of kit. And as I pointed out, it uses their I-type film, which is available in black and white and or in color. And as I say, a pack is about 16 quid, and that gets you 8 photographs, which feels a little bit ouchy to me. Last couple of bits now of the gear. GoPro. Anyone use a GoPro? Just me? They seem to always be bringing out GoPros, don't they? But if you want to look in slow motion at yourself canoeing, why not? Then the GoPro 12 is here, Hero 12 I should say. They are really neat. I use them in lots of situations. They're very good to, if you're in a multi-camera video situation, they get you a very unique view. I've never found the photography side of it very useful, but the cameras for the video very much good. One little thing I would say which is important here on this Hero 12, it has the audio support for Bluetooth. So that means you could connect a microphone via Bluetooth from your lapel to the GoPro. That is new. That had never been possible before. And the big issue with using video seriously from the GoPro was the audio is rubbish. Hopefully that will have helped with that. Doesn't it look smart? That's also quite an expensive bit of kit though, 400 quid. Right, there's a lot of gear. I'm sorry everyone. So Dave's got a GoPro, he uses it underwater. Yeah, they are good. They're useful, aren't they? I use one. I've actually got 3, and I use a couple of them very regularly for work-related things. Final bit of lenses. Actually, that's not true. There's a couple of lenses coming up. It's been a busy week for gear. The Sigma 100 to 400 has just been released for Fuji X series lenses. X series cameras, sorry. This is $899. That is very affordable. Sigma lenses are, I think, are pretty good. Do you use Sigma lenses, anyone out there? Let me know in the comments. I have used them in the past and I found them to be well made and reliable, and the image quality was good. They are very affordable. So think about that, 150mm to 600mm for £900. I think that's fantastic. And if you're using an APS-C Fuji, that will give you that 150 to 600 range instead of the 100 to 400. So any Fuji X users and you want something long, if you go on Safari or similar to that, this would be a nice add-on for you. I'm going to rattle through because I'd forgotten just how much gear there was. Sony, they've been releasing cameras as well. The A7CR is the sort of professional one they've released. That is a 61 megapixel full frame camera. Looks quite neat. I like that viewfinder on the left hand side of the body. We've talked about that before. It means you can hold it up and still have an eye free to look at what's happening on the scene. 5-axis stabilization. Interestingly, they've added some creative look presets, which is a bit like Fujifilm's film simulations. So that can be black and white, color simulations, etc., etc. So that's quite a neat looking bit of kit, actually. I have actually always struggled with Sony, but a lot of my colleagues seem to get on very well with them. So it may well be me that's in the wrong. Tell me, what do you guys reckon? This one packs a lot of gear for that money. 61 megapixels. It's a bit like the Nikon Z2, maybe, or the Z8, maybe. They have also released a slightly cheaper, which is an A7C2. That is a more affordable, should we say, full frame camera, 33 megapixels, 4K video, very light, only 500 grams. That's very, very light for a camera. I think as an all-rounder, that might be quite a neat little bit of kit. 33 megapixels is pretty good. It's all you generally need. And as we finish up on the camera-related lenses and bits and bobs, I wanted to just mention this Fuji lens. Sony lens. It's been a very long day. I'm sorry, everybody. 5 o'clock call this morning. Ouch, painful. This is a Sony lens. It's nothing to do with Fuji. It's their new FE 16 to 35mm. So a wide-angle lens, f2.8. That's pretty good for that wide angle. They claim it's the smallest and lightest ever wide angle at only 547 grams. It should be good because it's £2,400. Ouch. Ouchie, ouchie. Last bit of actual kit, and then we're going to talk books, exhibitions, image reviews. That's what's going to come up in the second half. Last bit of kit, if you are a Nikon Z9 user, anyone out there got a Z9? They have released, three-legged thing, have released the new L bracket, which is a very useful bit of kit to have on your camera full stop. This is one specifically to fit the Z9. I feel for three-legged thing because every camera has a different base shape, ports, all sorts of rubbish. But in general terms, an L bracket is highly recommended. Do you all have one? I hope so, because it makes twisting your camera from horizontal to vertical and slipping it straight into the same tripod mount without having to tip your tripod head. It makes that a lot easier, smoother and safer, and you keep the center of weight in the middle of the tripod. So an L bracket generally is highly recommended as far as I'm concerned. If you're ever using a tripod, you should get yourself an L bracket onto your camera. Dave, you're rocking the Z9. Are you liking it? I hear good things. It's a bit of a big thing though, isn't it? It's a beast. I thought the mirrorless thing was to go small, but the Z9 is quite a big camera, but it does pack a lot of stuff into it. Right, let's get off the gear. We've done a lot of gear. Sorry everyone, lots of stuff came out. There is that Z9 bracket in action. Let's talk about a new book. All right, this is very nice. Something to fire your inspiration. Michael Kenner. Hopefully you all know Michael Kenner and you've seen some of his work. I would say probably one of the most highly regarded living photographers across all genres. I think if you mentioned his name in any circles, it would, it would be well regarded, and he makes some very unique work and he makes some imagery which you can definitely tell is his, which I think is a great sign usually of quality and of aesthetic consistency and of the character of the person coming through into their images as well. So there are a multitude of Michael Kenner books out there and have been for many years, and he regularly exhibits and releases new books. But this book is released by Nazareli Press, and it's called Michael Kenner Photographs and Stories. It's limited to just 2,000 copies. I have already ordered mine, and I suggest you find a way to already order yours because I suspect that will sell through pretty easily. This is to celebrate Michael's 50th year as a photographer, and it's quite a neat thing. What they've done is he's picked out one image every year from 1973 to 2023. And so if you're either a Michael Kenner fan or if you've heard about him but you haven't ever procured any of his work, then this book would be a really nice way to see that work over a period of time. And also, interestingly, I believe, it's going to be accompanied, it's not just the images, which will be printed beautifully if it's a Nazareli Press release. The imagery will be fantastic, the stock will be great, the actual book will be extremely well made. But there's also, I believe, some stories, some backstories from Michael about the images, about the type of photography he does, about the locations, which is really good because I haven't seen that. There may be something out there, correct me if I'm wrong. But I always enjoy reading text along with images, either in the same book or underneath the image, that maybe gives a little bit more background information. It doesn't always have to be a technical thing, such as I did this with this or the settings. I actually think just to get the mindset of the photographer, all sorts of interesting things you can add. So that's a beautiful book. It'd be a really nice Christmas present, that, for somebody. And Michael Kenner work is obviously fantastic. Now, let's talk about something a bit closer to home. This is a ongoing, well, it's about to be ongoing, it's going to start in a few days, exhibition with associated talks and activities. It's being run by Make Southwest, which you can find more about makesouthwest.org.uk. The physical things are happening in Devon, and obviously that's where the exhibition and some of the events are. And that's running from the 16th of September to the 4th of November. The name of this exhibition, and stroke the whole thing, is Responding to Light, and it features photographers such as Charlie Waite, Joe Cornish, Marianne Linus, Mandy Barker, and actually a few more. Valda Bailey is in there as well. And I think it's very interesting because, having been on the website, there's a good number of different types of photographers. It isn't just all, I would say, classic landscape. There is some quite experimental work on there. There's some more work which perhaps is challenging current issues, and there's some more traditional work as well. So if you're in the southwest, or you fancy a trip down to the Devon area, Bovey Tracy is to be precise, then this is running for a fair number of weeks, 16th of September to the 4th of November. And you can see on their website, I've just got a little snapshot of it here, more about the exhibition. Susan Brown has curated all of this. Susan Brown, many of you may know from the RPS and all the work she does with them as a photographer, and now she's curating this, which is fantastic. Now, as part of this exhibition and event generally in those few weeks, our very own Mr. Charlie Waite is doing a talk for the Make Southwest series. Let's call it a series because I'm talking about the exhibition and all the events that go with it. So Charlie's talk is called Behind the Photograph, and that is Saturday, 14th of October in Devon, £8, and it's an hour and a half. So if you fancied meeting Charlie, listening to Charlie talk about his images, as you all know, I'm sure many of you watching this, you will have seen and heard Charlie chatting about things before, then you'll know he's always good value. He always is very illuminating about his images and about the image making process generally. And every time I hear him talk, and every time I talk to him about images, and don't forget, we're going to have an image review at the end of this session with Charlie and I. Every time I hear him talk, I always learn something, and I always go away challenging myself, maybe to think in a slightly different way, or to see, he sees things just out of nowhere. It's terrible, it's horrible, swine. I love him really. But if you can get down to Devon, do go and see Charlie. It'll be a fantastic talk, like I say, 14th of October. Now, just before, I'm going to pick up on a question that came in about the Michael Kenner book. I will come straight back to that in a moment. I just want to finish up quickly with Charlie. And every month, Charlie does, through his newsletter, a print of the month. So he selects one of his images from his back catalogue. He offers it at a very good price, in my opinion, compared to what a standard Charlie Waite print would be. And he does a set number of these, so there's a limited quantity of them available. This month, until September the 20th, is this print from Andalusia, a place he is very, very fond of, and a place we're going to talk about with him on one of the image reviews on a later date. This is printed on A3. It's available at £250 just until the 20th of September. To access that offer, which is limited in supply, you have to sign up to Charlie Waite's newsletter, which you can do via charliewaite.com. And as part of the sign up, you will get the information about the print of the month. If you have any questions about that, just use the contact form through Charlie's website and the team can help you with that. This is a beautiful image. I have seen a version of this in print. It is fantastic. I've been very lucky to be at Charlie's in his studio. We've worked on a few things, done videos before, we've talked about imagery. He's printed a couple of things while I've been there. He's very particular about the prints, about the quality of the prints, the paper, the setup, everything. So if you fancied getting a Charlie Waite print, having that in your collection or on your wall or as a gift, this is a fantastic way to do it at I would say, an affordable price point. Now, let me just go back to the question, which was from Ken. Michael Kenner books are normally very expensive. Any idea of cost? Yes, Ken, they are often quite expensive. And yes, I can tell you the cost. It's up to you to decide if this is expensive or not. £60, 50 images, high quality print. I think it's probably on the expensive end. I don't think it's horrific. Also because it's a limited quantity. And what you do find with Michael Kenner books is once they go out of print and or the edition is done, if you ever try to pick those up secondhand, they can run into the hundreds of pounds. So it's a luxury buy. I think that would be a fair thing to say, Ken, definitely. Now, talking of books, every month when I do this news show, and by the way, thank you for hanging on with me tonight. I know I've done a lot of talking and it's all been a bit rapid fire, hasn't it? I'm sorry. I just had a lot to fire at you. Let's chill out for the last 5-10 minutes of this. I want to talk to you about my book of the month. And as I've mentioned in the past, I'm not going to pick books that have just come out commonly. I've been looking through my back catalogue, I've been looking through my bookcases, and I try to think of something which has been an interesting or a meaningful book to me, either because I've learned something or because I know something more about the photographer, or I just simply enjoyed the images. And I was browsing through at the weekend thinking, what shall I chat with about the lovely Light and Land crew? And I decided I wanted to mention this book by a photographer called Colin Bell. Colin is based in the Northwest. He's a lovely guy. I interviewed him in a former life for a podcast that I used to do. Some of you may know about that. And we had a really lovely chat. And it was just at the time he'd released this book. He had self-published the book. This was probably 5 years ago now. 2017, 6 years ago. He'd printed, I think, about 500, which is a fairly bold thing to self-publish. That's a fairly high quantity. And as I went to his house to do this interview, him and his whole family were madly packaging books, because that's the thing you don't always see if you're the buyer. If you're buying a self-published book from the artist, the creator, they've probably had to think about all the packaging, all the postage stuff, the labels, and then if you order your books as the artist and 500 of them turn up at your house, you've got to have somewhere to put them, so you end up just looking like a warehouse for a couple of weeks. I've been there, done that. But I really, really love this book. It's got beautiful, beautiful imagery primarily from various parts of the Lake District, and I'm just going to share a couple of the images with you. This is obviously quite a nice broad vista, and you can see these classic English views. Also, though, Colin throws a few curveballs in. I would say there's some slightly more visually challenging images, and I mean that in a very good way, in that they make you look and re-look. So there's obviously kind of a reflection of a frozen pool here, and we've flipped it, and so what are we seeing is up, what's down, what's reflection, what's real, etc. But in general terms, I really love this book, and it goes through different seasons in these locations as well. So you see some spring and summer greens like this. You saw the winter snow-capped peaks in the image before, and you see some of the work from in and around the quarry areas, and these beautiful silver birch trees with these misty mornings, and all these very classic vistas. So I just personally think this book is so well done for a self-published book. The quality of the printing, the quality of the paper, it's all been thought out really beautifully, and on top of that, Colin's images are really, really quiet and contemplative and classy. I really, really loved the book from the moment I had it, and it's one of the ones I do go back to and just look at, and it's a great little book. So you can pick them up. I believe you may find something pre-owned. He obviously sold through the set, but you may find something out there. Now, let's talk what's up next. And Ken, just quickly back on the Michael Kenner book. Yes, they do sometimes go for hundreds, as you say. 60 quid's fine. I think so too, Ken. I've ordered mine already, and I would suggest if anyone wants one, I'd jump on it. Now, to business, to a bit of Light and Land business. We are doing a live stream next Monday night. Now, normally we do them every 2 weeks, every fortnight. It's usually Tuesday and then a break and then another Tuesday. However, we're doing a very special live stream with myself, Andy Farrer, and Nicholas Nilsson, who is joining us from lands afar, and to be more precise, the Spitsbergen area. And we're going to be talking about this area because Light and Land are doing a tour over there, which Andy is leading, and Nicholas is the local expert, both in terms of the location, wildlife, and in terms of photography actually as well. And so he's going to take us behind the scenes of this really, really, really fantastic location. and some of the exciting things that they do on this tour, which involves being on board the MS Stockholm and moving through these ice packs, seeing all sorts of amazing sights. This really is, you know, not your average trip. Wildlife, polar bears, all sorts of wildlife, like I say, the sea ice, and all sorts of beautiful, beautiful scenery. So we're going to have a chat with Andy and Nicholas about this Monday night, 8 p.m. All right, we'll send out an email reminder from the office, but just mark that in your diary, pop it in your phone. Join us on Monday night for this special live stream. All right, it should be a really good one. And we're going to talk about the imagery, the types of locations, the challenges perhaps of shooting in those situations, and obviously the plus points of that as well. So that is next Monday. After that, in normal Tuesday terms, on the 26th of September, so this will be in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be joined by Ed Rumble and Tom Sullum, who are two fairly new Light and Land leaders. They've done a good number of tours though now, and we're going to be talking to them about their photography and their journey into photography and how they ended up becoming Light and Land leaders. So that should be really good. We're going to talk about the Dolomites. Sorry, let me just flick back to that, because those two guys lead the Dolomites tour, and I can talk to everyone about the Dolomites. That's a happy subject for me. But we're also going to talk about some of their photography on the south coast of England, and various types of photography, long exposure, classic landscapes. We might even touch on a bit of IR and black and white as well. So those two are fantastic. They're really good fun. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be in a couple of weeks' time, as per usual, on the Tuesday at 8 p.m. And as I say, we're not just going to talk about their tours. We're going to talk about how they got into photography, how they met, and how they've come on board with Light and Land, and what that means for them. So bear with me, just a couple more bits to do, and then I'm going to talk to you, or I'm going to, let you know the video. I'm going to show you the video, with myself and Charlie Waite. So let me just whip that off for a second. I just want to mention one little bit of news, which we've previously mentioned before, and I'm going to come to again, because it's about an ongoing offer and celebration that Light and Land are doing. As part of our upcoming 30th birthday, not mine, I wish, but Light and Land's 30th birthday, which is in 2024, we are running a prize draw to win one of 3 prizes. So you could win £3,000 worth of Light and Land voucher, £2,000 or £1,000. So there's 3 separate prizes. They can be used against the cost of any tour in 2024, and indeed multiple tours if your voucher allowed for that. To enter, you simply need to have been booked on, or to book on, a tour between the 1st of July and the 31st of December this year. So if you make any booking in that time period, you can enter this prize draw to win one of those Light and Land vouchers. All right. So how you do that is you simply make your booking, or refer back to one if you've already made one within that time period, and you just email the booking number or the order number to admin@lightandland.co.uk. If you have any questions about how to work this, or whether you qualify, just get in touch with the office there, admin@lightandland.co.uk. But it's fairly straightforward. You can always zip back and watch this bit again if you wish to. What I would say is, whenever there's a competition, people think, oh, well, is it worth it? Am I going to win it? That's because there's usually millions of people. This is not millions of people. You have a pretty decent chance, if there's 3 prizes, of coming up with something here. So if you have booked in that time period, and or you're going to, then I would say to you, get your order number into the office. You can have 1 entry for every booking that you've made. Get your order number into the office, and you'll go into that prize draw to possibly win those vouchers, which you can then use in 2024. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? A £3,000 voucher. That would be nice. Right, I'm there. I got through it all. I powered into it, didn't I? Don't go anywhere though, because for the next 5 minutes or so, it's going to be a video of Charlie and I talking about an image from Phil Malpas, one of the very, very experienced, very, very popular Light and Land leaders. And we're going to talk about his image from Scotland. Now, before I play the video, I will just say here, thank you very much for watching and for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you get a chance to bang a like or share this video, that is very much appreciated as well. And or leave us a comment just to get the interaction going on it. That would be fab. Thank you to everyone who's commented as we've gone. And I hope you all are getting out there with your cameras. It's getting to that time of year where it's maybe a little bit more rewarding, isn't it? When we're all looking forward to, I would imagine, end of September, October and November. Talking of which, this image from Phil is up in Scotland, and it's up on the North Coast 500, which is a tour that he runs. And I'm going to throw now to Charlie and I talking about this image. I will still be here in the background, so if you have any questions or comments, just bang them in. But from me, I will say goodbye today. Watch the video, enjoy it, and I will see you next time. I'm back with Charlie, and Charlie is going to talk to me about this image. Now, Charlie, there's a couple of things I want to just say here. Phil is, you know, in many ways, Mr. Light and Land. He's been with us for a good number of years, and I know you're hugely grateful for all the hard work he's done, as am I, and as is everyone else in the team. But the other part of this I want to talk about is this is based from his North Coast 500 tour up in Scotland. Now, that's actually running 9th to the 20th of October. I believe at the time of recording this, there is at least one, maybe two spaces, but I think at least one space remaining. But Charlie, two things. Firstly, can we talk a little bit about Phil? And secondly, let's talk about this image and it being based in Scotland, obviously somewhere you love photographing in as well. But firstly, Phil, let's get to him first.
Well, you know, he's a good guy. I'm going to point out that Phil is a completely delightful human being in so many ways. I really can't lay enough accolades at his door. I'm hugely fond of him, and yes, he stepped into the Light and Land world many years ago. I think probably maybe over 25 years ago. He's developed a very astute and acute eye, and he's a delight to be with. He has a very clever way of imparting his knowledge, always attributing the guest with the person with basically the person who created that comment, but in fact it was one that he planted, but they never knew that he did. So he's very clever at the teaching process. And if I may just say a few words about this photograph, it's a landscape classic. It has all the ingredients, but really well studied. I mean, the first thing what one might notice is the cloud, that oval, slightly squashed oval, matching beautifully the little wood beneath. So they're talking to each other. And once you get things in a photograph where they sort of have they're having a natter, and in this case those two clouds, that I think helps to cement the image in terms of you know, rather like beautiful interior design. There's a lovely relationship when we know that relationships often play a very important role. And then if you just start at the beginning, there are these lovely reeds, absolutely lovely, warm colored, working so well with the cold colors of the sky. So everything's warm and cold and warm all over the place. And the reeds are absolutely lovely. They're in exactly the right position. Everything is completely right about this photograph, in my estimation. I cannot find, not that one uses the word errors or faults, but it's just so well understood, and he's conveyed it exquisitely. I could look at that for a jolly long time.
Well, this area of Scotland, obviously on the tour, they follow that North Coast 500 route, and Phil's worked very hard to sort of craft the tour, the logistics of the tour, to make sure that you see, you know, the most photogenic places, but that you have ample time to look at them and to get under the skin of them. It is very photogenic up there, isn't it, Charlie? You know, from a classic landscape point of view, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it's rich in opportunities, and the interpretations. You know, you could quite easily do just a little a sort of study of the reeds, and just on their own. So you're actually presented with multiple choices and it's a 360 degree feast in terms of landscape. So I must say I would get there really quickly. But it's good that you, to me, that you emphasise what an absolutely golden boy Phil Malpass is, and there's no question about it. He's an absolute puppet.
Well, if anyone is interested in heading up to Scotland, I think it's just proof, especially that you don't need to go all around the world to find amazing photographs and amazing opportunities. Scotland really, it feels like another world, certainly to those of us living down on the Dorset coast, such as myself and Charlie. But you know, you have mountains, you have lochs, you have reeds, you have all manner of weather as well. And as we all know, that makes often for the most interesting light and the most interesting photographs in the landscape. So unbelievably, as I say at the time of recording, there is at least one, I believe, space remaining on this. This always sells out though, so do jump on that if it's still available, and you can find that lightland.co.uk. But Charlie, I will say thank you very much for now.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, as they say, to enjoy this image.
I know we're both going to end this wishing we were in Scotland, and I think that's tantamount to the success of Phil's image. But for now, I'll say thank you for watching, everyone, and we shall see you again very soon. Cheerio.